Yo, what's up? It's KallaTheYapper, and I'm back with another reaction, twin. Woo! In today's video, I'm about to react to this video made by the Nigerian Perspective, and it's why some of Genshin's biggest characters feel totally underwhelming. I gotta know what type of logic he's running on to say that they're underwhelming. Characters who've been built up, gassed up for 5 years are apparently now underwhelming. If that was the case, I'm gonna say this right now, people wouldn't have had the reaction that they had towards Varka. People wouldn't have had the reaction they had towards Alice if that was the case. So, we about to see what the hell he talking about. It is November 28th. It is 12:41 p.m. as of this reaction. So, let us get started.
We just went through the Genshin Impact Luna 3 livestream last week, and there was a lot that was given to us, a lot of information, and a lot of things we were supposed to expect going into the newer version of Genshin Impact. And when I say a lot, I mean it in the most Genshin way possible, because with this game, it is never fully positive. There are genuinely good things to look forward to, like the continuation of the story and the arrival of characters like Durin. But along with those positives, this version also brings up extremely terrible things. Most notably, we have the quote-unquote buff of older characters.
Oh my god, of course. What to expect? Yet another person doom posting, talking about these are predatory buffs. I'm not surprised. Every last one of these niggas from Saint Tontas, Glaive Kyo, the Gotcha DDG2, and now the Nigerian Perspective. Oh, these bad and terrible buffs. I wonder what he's about to say. Either A, they're meaningless buffs, or B, they're predatory. You have to get Durin on your team in order for the buffs to work. Let's see.
And really, this is supposed to be a milestone in the game, especially for older players. Finally, the characters they used to explore Genshin Impact, the OG characters they used to enjoy, the ones that were essentially their means and their catalyst to fall in love with Genshin Impact, are finally getting buffed. And this is meant to be a source of celebration for everyone, not just for newer players or
it is a source of celebration. I wonder how you're going to spend it to say it's a bad thing.
Older players, but really anyone who has spent time in Genshin Impact. But as always, when it comes to Hoyoverse, they somehow find a way to always mess up things like these. Do you want your old characters getting buffed? Do you want to take those characters you've loved for years?
Oh my god, he about to say it.
Enjoy the new worlds, the
he
new
about to say
regions,
it. He about to say it.
Of Genshin Impact with them. Well, too bad, because the only way for buffs to be enabled on older characters is to pull for the new shiny ones.
Oh my god, yet another person lying. Man, I am shocked that niggas just love to lie. Good God Almighty. Oh man. Seeing, what was it? Glaive, Saint, DGG2, and now the Nigerian Perspective. It's 4 niggas pushing the same fucking lie. Man, we just love lying around here, don't we?
If you want your veterans to feel relevant, you have to roll for the latest releases. And really, is anybody surprised? Is this anything new from?
It's crazy. And it's like, if you pull up the Genshin live stream, they legitly say that you will be able to unlock all of their stuff if you do the quest that's tied to them. And on top of that, it doesn't matter who is in the team. The buffs will activate. But again, if I keep re-rinsing my points over and over again, I'm going to be beating a dead horse. Because this is another lie pushed by niggas who claim to sit here and say, we want Genshin to be better. If that's the case, why the fuck are we lying?
From Hoyoverse. But when it's all said and done, that's not the point of this video. I'm not here to dive into the entire situation. What I want to talk about is something else I've noticed in this new region. Something I don't see a lot of people discussing, even though I believe it is extremely important. Important
really?
Not just for Genshin Impact going forward, but for any gacha game that looks to Genshin as a learning experience. And that is the fact that from the Luna 2 updates going into Luna 3, Genshin has slowly but surely been revealing the more obscure and secret characters in the game. Characters they've essentially been hiding from the very start, ever since Mondstadt. And really, when you think about this, these reveals and these characters are supposed to be incredibly hype. These are moments that should have the entire community talking, from regular.
What makes you think that they're not talking about it? Is he really about to argue that nobody is talking about how hype this stuff is? Am I supposed to act like I didn't see people talking all over social media about Varka and Alice and Nicole when the freaking teaser for Not Cry dropped like 3 months ago? What the fuck are we talking about? I know he hasn't gotten into it yet, but bro, good Lord, I hope that's not the argument he's about to sit here and try to make. For the love of God.
viewers to even the biggest content creators. There should be
Even
buzz. So why isn't there one?
there isn't any buzz? The fuck? Oh my god. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. He is really about to sit here and make the argument that there is no buzz. There is no love for the reveal of Alice, Varka, Rerir, and so on. Are we really about to do this right now? This feels retarded if he's about to sit here and make this claim.
Or rather, why isn't there enough? By the time this video comes out, it would have been at least a week since we first saw the official reveal of these characters in the last live stream, and literal months since Varka's involvement in Luna 2. So what gives? What is with the silence? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So if you're into this kind of content, make sure to like the
What is with the silence? Maybe because people have talked about them ad nauseum at this point, because you don't need to talk about a character who was just revealed into a story more than a month than you need to. More than likely, you just need to talk about it within that time frame that's talked about, and then that's it. Realistically. There's only so much stuff you can yammer on about a character that's finally been revealed in the story before the conversation gets old, until they reveal some new information about said character and whatever ties they have to another character. Until that happens, then the conversation sparks up again, obviously.
like the video and tell me how you feel about this character.
Like, for example, I don't see people sit here yammering their gums off about, oh, the leader of the Fraxidus still to this day. And it's been, what, a month and some change since the 2.7 story? I don't see people still yammering on about that, because guess what? There's only so much yammer you can do about the dude until we learn more information about him. Yes or no?
Characters. Do you still feel the same hype seeing them now in these stories and trailers as you did?
Yes! Because people who've been wanting to see these characters on screen, because you, the Nigerian perspective, you made a whole video talking about NPC designs in Genshin. I remember I reacted to that video. You even said out of your own mouth that, because this is how you personally feel, at this point in time, for you, you feel that any reveal for any character who's supposed to have an NPC or design or a character design tied to their name, you're just not up for, you don't care for it anymore. You stated that in your own video. Actually, you know what? Let me see if I can, because I remember which video it was. It was like a month ago that I reacted to this, where you talk about NPC designs, about Wuwa NPC designs, how immaculate and great they are, while simultaneously ignoring the fact that Genshin Impact has also upped up their standard for their NPC designs as well. Let me see. How long ago did I react to that video before we get into this? It was a while ago. Oh, here we go. It was a month ago, where you made your video talking about NPCs. Granted, this is me reacting to it a month ago. Granted, that video is longer than this one.
Did when you first heard about them back in the 1.x series? Or has that hype completely died down? Let me know.
The hype has died down because the characters have finally come into the story. So the hype and the expectation, guess what? It checked the boxes off. So obviously the hype has died down now until the characters get released as playable characters, until something else crazy happens in the story to be hyped about. Until that happens, of course, the hype has died down. That's natural. That's expected to happen. What character can I use, for example? For example, Furlova, right? People had so much hype for Furlova, and then she was released. Guess what? People talked about, yammered about her for probably a month worth of time, and then what happened? The conversation around Furlova died down because there's no more stuff you can add to Furlova and talk about Furlova that hasn't been talked about ad nauseum.
Let me know that in the comments below, and of course, don't forget to subscribe, make sure you don't on any of my future videos. Before we get into it, this video is sponsored by U7 Bar.
I don't care about your sponsorship. Sorry, twin. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for this.
Let's get into it. See, back in the version 1.x series, back in the Mondstadt era of Genshin Impact, at the time when the game was at its absolute peak, one thing Genshin Impact had going for it more than anything else was conversation. And there was so much conversation surrounding this game. Everything about Genshin Impact was or could become a point of discussion. Whether it was the environment, the stories, the characters, the side quests, or even the food items in the game, all of it sparked long and at the time, genuinely interesting conversation. But one thing I believe the entire community can agree on was that its greatest source of conversation in all of Genshin Impact, especially at those times where it's more obscure characters. The insane conversation that erupted when we learned that Jean was only the acting grandmaster of the Knights of Favonius and then had the name Varka suddenly dropped into the community was unbelievable, especially considering the fact that the only information we had about him back then was that he was the actual grandmaster, someone with more authority and presumably more strength than not only Jean, but really most people in all of Mondstadt. That single reveal alone fueled theories, debates, and endless speculation. And then there was the hype every single time we returned to the Golden Apple Archipelago, learning more about Alice, Klee's mother, and trying to piece together how she connects to everything. She wasn't just a character, she was a mystery, a force, a presence that shaped the game without ever showing up. And if anyone knows anything about obscure characters in any medium, especially characters that generate the kind of hype that Varka and Alice did, is that the moment
Yeah, this is something that happens all the time. Again, I think I've already answered the question to what he's about to say already. Naturally, the conversation already dies down, similar to how Itachi from Naruto was talked about in passing by other characters until he finally revealed himself in the story. Guess what? People were hyped about it, and guess what? When he left the story, the hype died down. And then when he came back, especially when it was a hype moment for the character, guess what? People yapped about it. Then he was gone again. And then the conversation was about how his interaction with Sasuke at the time of Naruto Shippuden affected him moving forward, which then yapping and hype talked about for Sasuke's character. Now, was I there for those conversations? Absolutely not, because I got into Naruto when Naruto Shippuden happened, and it was like we were already past the pain arc when I actually started watching Naruto Shippuden, right? But I can guarantee that's what happened with the conversations.
obscure characters in any medium, especially characters that generate the kind of hype that Varka and Alice did, is that the moments they're finally revealed is supposed to be one of, if not the single biggest moments of that character's entire presence in the story. So what went wrong in this case? See, I believe there are two major reasons for the general lack of hype surrounding these characters, and none of them are due to circumstance or timing or anything external like that. Both are caused directly by Genshin Impact itself. And the first, which I believe is really the most important, is something I like to call TNT, timing and teasers. See, I believe teasers are very important. In fact, they carry the bulk of the weight when it comes to generating hype, especially for...
So you believe that the hype for Varka and Alice is dead because they revealed their character reveals in the live streams, basically. I can understand that. But at the same time, people were still hyped to see them regardless of the fact that they got revealed in the live streams. If that's the argument he's about to make.
I believe teasers are very important. In fact, they carry the bulk of the weight when it comes to generating hype, especially for obscure characters. Characters the medium doesn't want to show the public just yet. Characters the game or the anime wants people to have intense ongoing discussions about. But more than anything, and this might sound a little crazy, but I genuinely believe there is a science to teasers. Specifically, how, when, and why you tease a character matters a lot. The entire end goal of teasing a character is to generate hype for that character, especially for their eventual release. You're building up to a moment in the video game where the reveal is supposed to hit with maximum impact. And I believe the hows, the whens, and the whys behind those teasers contributes massively to whether that hype actually gets created. And initially, I wanted to go on this entire rant about how Madara is an amazing example of an incredibly teased character, and how Naruto did such a good job not only teasing him, but building all these incredible moments where every tease lined up perfectly into one of the greatest reviews in anime. But I think it's more fair to bring this conversation closer to home and talk about another character in another gacha game, the Grand Architect in Wuthering Waves. Now, admittedly, the true identity of this character has not yet been revealed. The Grand Architect is still in the process of being teased, but I believe in the 5 to 6 months we've seen so far, Wuthering Waves has done a phenomenal job teasing and building this character, far better than Genshin.
Really? Because last time I checked, we were only taught, the mention of the Grand Architect was, as far as I remember, only mentioned in Furlova's quest, and then he got revealed. Okay, so we're over here comparing short-term reveal to long-term reveal. So again, this is no different from this other video I reacted to by him, where he compared Avidius to Dainsleif. This is essentially what this is. This is, again, just complaining about the timing. The fact that Wuwa was doing like this to reveal their character, while Genshin was like this. That's all this is. And if you are upset that the characters weren't revealed earlier, my argument would be, it's clear as day, this was not the time and place to reveal them. Alice had multiple different characters miscellany videos where she was talking, telling us about how the character's abilities worked and this, that, and the third. Varka, we had multiple different limited time event quests that happened in the game where Varka was mentioned in passing or saying that, oh, he's going to this location, he's going to Nardcry, or he came across the captain. This was before we even went to Natlan. That was back during version 3 when this happened, when Mika was revealed into the game, right? Because he was a part of the expedition team before he was sent back home to Mondstadt. So if he's about to give a subjective opinion about why he thinks the Grand Architect was built up better than Varka and Alice, cool, you can say that. But to say that as objectively, is to try to paint it as an objective fact that he was done better, when Homeboy was only talked about and mentioned probably one time, in, mind you, for Lova's quest, and then was later revealed with this body and design, is like, yeah, your bias is going to be like, oh, well, he was revealed better because he was revealed faster. And it's like, no, just because the character was revealed faster doesn't mean they were revealed better. Both Alice and Varka had so much more built up on them to their reveal. This dude was only mentioned like one time, and then they were like, oh, here you go, reveal.
Genshin Impact has done with any of...
Now again, for someone who's more in-depth to Wuwa lore than I am, you can tell me another moment where the Grand Architect was mentioned in whether it be a world quest or a character story quest or even the main story besides for Lova's quest. I'll gladly listen. I promise you.
Has done a phenomenal job teasing and building this character, far better than Genshin Impact has done with any of its more obscure characters in the 5 years it's been around.
That is such a grand ass lie. That is a subjective opinion being pushed as fact. Good lord.
See, the first time we ever heard of the Grand Architects wasn't even in the story. It was in a document about Furlova, something entirely separate from the main game and story. And in that document,
like they haven't done the same shit. Oh my god. No way he really about to do what I think he about to do. And this goes back to, it's so crazy that he's sitting here mentioning this. Let me take the conversation away from this or tie it to another thing. He's sitting here mentioning how this character was mentioned in a document about Furlova, in a document that wasn't even in the game. Wait, listen to what he said again.
Document about Furlova, something entirely separate from the main game and story. And in that document,
something entirely different from the main game and story. More than likely, this is her character information that they posted on Twitter. This is probably the architect talking. Or no, this is when the Grand Architect is mentioned. Okay. So this is lore information that's not in the game, but it was outside of the game in official, that was a part of official information released about the character when her character was coming out, basically. It's crazy to me that he's in here being like, look how good it is that they revealed lore about a character outside of the game. But simultaneously, the Wuwa player base and its Coralbot ass CCs were on the ass cheeks of Genshin when Nardcry was about to release, being like, oh, you need to read the lore artifact in order to understand what's happening in the game. This, that, and the third. Is this not the same shit of reading information that's lore information that's either outside of the game or inside the game, that's not even mentioned in the story yet, to then learn more, to be excited more about a character that's coming, or learn about or be excited for what's to come next in the story? Is this not the same shit? This is the same shit people were bitching about for Genshin to do, but somehow it's okay for Wuwa to do it? Oh my lord. Anyway, let's get back to the main topic of this video.
Document about Furlova, something entirely separate from the main game and story. And in that document, not only did we see the name Grand Architect, but we also got a sense of who this character is. We understood that this character was not only extremely important, given the context of the document, but also someone we would most likely encounter and potentially...
I find it crazy how he's sitting here. This is a complete subjective opinion pushed as fact. Why are we acting like the same shit didn't happen in Genshin? The same shit didn't happen in Star Rail or Zenless. I know he's mentioning Genshin in particular, but to sit here and argue and to make the claim that Genshin failed in this aspect when what you're pointing out is the same shit Genshin did is crazy to me. Oh my lord. Excuse my notification. That's my freaking alarm. Good lord. I'm trying to think back to... Let me think back to a character who had... Oh! Case in point. Here we go. Neuvillette. Neuvillette had a character known as Shibalanke talk about Neuvillette when Neuvillette's character was revealed, and they posted his drip marketing on Twitter. Actually, let me see if I can... Because I know, what's his name? Murder of Birds. I've seen Murder Over Birds content, not like in depth, but I've seen his reactions when he did Ruby content back in the day before he shifted and started doing Genshin content. Homeboy loves deep lore. He loves it. He loves it with a passion. Let me search up Murder of Birds. Let's do Genshin Impact. More than likely, as I scroll through his content, I'm going to find a video of him diving deep into, let's say, character lore. Look, the first video that I see on here from 2 hours ago is a book about humans do not exist in Genshin Impact. It's his lore episode of what, 419? Shoot, what about the book of Perrin Harry that paralleled and related to Arlecchino, a character, mind you, who hadn't been released in the game until version, what, 4.6, 4.7? And that book came out way before that. What else? The book of Inkanomina that talked about the dragon race and how the dragons originally ran the world. And guess what happened? Later down the line, when we got to Natlan, or rather, when we got to Sumeru, where we were reaching the end of Sumeru, guess what? We ran into a dragon from the old era, the Dendro dragon. Then after that, we go into Fontaine, run into Nouvelle, a dragon of the old era who has been reborn and has reobtained his authority over Hydro. Then what happened after that? Go to Natlan. We encounter new age evolved dragons, which are the Saurians, and we go do world quests tied to Shibalanke and his homeboy Ochkan and learn more about the ancient dragon race there from world quests and so on. So it's like these characters' names being mentioned in passing in other forms of documents and whatnot, this, that, and the third, has been a thing in the game of Genshin Impact before the characters were even released. Whether it be a character expressing a voice line talking about the character, or in a document of dialogue that they say in the story, or some document that you come across because you went exploring or reading a book or what have you. It's like, to sit here and say that Genshin did not do a good job at this is crazy to me. I would love for him to provide an example of a moment where Genshin did not do a good job of this. I hope he provides that rather than this being such a subjective opinion all the way through.
Potentially have to fight further down the line. And what is even more impressive was that the first time Wooden Waves introduced this character in the story itself was probably one of the best and most manipulative pieces of writing I have ever seen in a gacha game. See, how Wooden Waves decided to show this character to us, the audience, for the first time wasn't through a display of strength or anything world-breaking, no. Our first look at the Grand Architect was him disguised as a child, and not just any child, but a child designed to manipulate Fulova, his own ally. And just let that sink in. Our very first glimpse of the Grand Architect was him trying to manipulate someone in his own team. And why this is
okay, so this is a subjective opinion. This is not an objective opinion. You just like the fact of what they did for the Grand Architect, which is cool. Learning that, actually knowing that this was the Grand Architect in disguise is pretty cool. I didn't even know that, right? But to sit here and try to paint it as an objective fact that I did it better, to me is crazy. Genuinely it is. There's world quests in Fontaine that ties to Columbina before her character even appears in the game. Mind you, Columbina's character was already revealed before that with the Winter Nights Lazo trailer that was released back in before Sumeru was about to release, where we got to see all the Harbingers. Right? So it's like using teasers, books, in-game documents, or characters talking about another character in passing, all of these are forms of building up hype for characters. For example, Dori, the 4-star character Dori, that is probably one of the worst 4-star characters in Genshin Impact, right? In terms of her kit rather than her character writing, because I think her character writing is pretty good. She talks about her relationship with Alice. And mind you, every character before that, we didn't really have much characters talk about Alice. I think we probably had about 1-2 characters talk about Alice. But to know that this 4-star character from Sumeru had connection with Alice, and then later on when we go to Nodcry, they expand upon it, showing us, oh, she has this trinket from Alice that Alice made for her, or she has business ties with Alice. It built up even more, or fleshed out rather, more of her ties with Dory's ties with Alice. So it's like, again, how did Genshin Impact drop the ball on this? I need to know how. Maybe I'll learn as we continue through this video.
This is such an amazing quote-unquote reveal is that we don't just see an iteration of the Grand Architect. We get a clear sense of who this character is and the lengths they're willing to go to achieve their goals. But the best part about how Wooden Waves chooses to tease this character is that he is continually present in the story. This isn't a character who shows up once, does something incredible or manipulative or awesome, and then disappears for the next couple of years. No, this is a character who, in a sense, is ever present throughout the story of Wooden Waves. Whether he is hinted...
That's a lie. Homeboy is not ever... Wait a minute. Is he about to say ever present in the form of documents or talked about in passing by other characters in books and whatnot? If he's about to add that as, oh, this is him being present in the story all the time, the same thing applies to Genshin when it came down to Alice, when it came down to Varka, and so on. Hold up. Let's listen to it all the way. Hold up.
No, this is a character who, in a sense, is ever present throughout the story of Wooden Waves. Whether he is hinted at or flat out shown through different storylines, wearing different disguises or pursuing different objectives, each appearance gives us a little more insight.
Each appearance, this dude only appeared as this disguise one time, and then we saw him again for a second time. AKA, his buildup was from Ferlova and Ferlova's quest back in version 2.5, and then he doesn't actually reveal himself, or he's even talked about again until version 2.7. If we're gassing up a quick reveal of a character and claiming that the character was present 24/7 when no, he really wasn't on-screen present. He was a background character who, mind you, wasn't even a background character because he wasn't even in the story at the moment. All we know is that he was in the background. He didn't appear in the main story until version 2.7. His first appearance was in 2.5 through this disguise, and then guess what? He was gone for 2.6. Then he appears in 2.7. Or rather, this was version 2.4 rather. I don't think this was version 2.5. I think this was version 2.4. Actually, let me go back, look at my playthrough. Let me look at my playlist, actually, because I have a woo-wah playlist for everything I played. Let me scroll through this thing real quick. Give me a second. Okay. No, it was version 2.5. Yeah, I was right. It was version 2.5 where he appeared in this disguise, and then he doesn't come into the story until version 2.7. Mind you, the Grand Architect, because if the Grand Architect was talked in passing before this moment, he would have mentioned it in his video. But he wasn't, clearly. It wasn't until now that he was mentioned, when Ferlova was released. If we're claiming that this is better, I disagree hardcore, and this is, again, subjective opinion being pushed as fact.
Insight into who he is. With every showcase, the game increases our understanding.
Shoot, I will say this. Let me back up so he can say everything he needs to say. I'll say this. When it came to Dottore, one of the Harbingers, guess what type of material that we had that gave us an insight to his character multiple times? Both before and after he was revealed in the game. Before, we had the Genshin Impact manga, where we saw one of Dottore's clones. Then after that, guess what? Dottore was mentioned in passing in guess whose character story quest? Child's first character story quest. Then after that, Dottore was shown in the Winter Nights Lazo trailer for Genshin Impact back during version 3, or before version 3 was about to be released. Then after that, guess what? He appears in the story. Then after he appears in the story, or rather when the desert is finally unlocked for us to explore, we find an abandoned hospital where he was experimenting on people who were sickly and ill with Elazar. And mind you, since the Doctor has been going under different names and aliases for over 500 years, you won't be able to tell that that's Dottore until you read anything he writes that's meant to be shown that he's talking in his document to realize, hold up, this sounds like Dottore is talking. Then after that, what other piece of information we learned about Dottore? Boom, we learned that Dottore, mind you, Dottore, a character who is not playable yet, Dottore, a villain, an antagonist, he is revealed to also have had a hand in Scaramouche's downfall into becoming a Harbinger for their own personal gain. of the Tsaritsa and the Torre and the Jester. Right? Then we learned recently with version 6.1, the limited time event that we got with Layla that I recently just played, probably a week ago. No, it's not even a week ago. Yeah, it was about 7 days ago. Almost 2 weeks ago. Right? We learned that Dottore, again, this was OG Dottore. It doesn't seem like this was one of his clones. This was looked like OG Dottore before he was kicked out of the academia. He came in contact with one of the Ibis Kings, with the Ibis King, who is a retainer of, guess what? King Deshret of the Desert of Sumeru, aka the Scarlet King. And how he, I guess, if I remember correctly, rejected or failed whatever questions or tests, or no, he didn't want to answer the questions or whatever. He just wanted the knowledge or something like that. Right? And guess what? Through the documents that we find, even doing that limited time event quest, we find how more, let's say, inhumane or like lacking of care that he has towards anyone else but himself. So guess what? This is over the course of 5 years, and even still now, before his character becomes playable, if they make him playable, they've been building his character to show just how terrible and reprehensible of an individual that he is and how far he's willing to go. Mind you, I said that they didn't reveal him into the story, or no, I did say they did reveal him in the story because he did appear in Sumeru's story multiple times. But before his character become playable, like I said, they've done an immaculate job building his character up. Both before his reveal and after it. So, again, I don't see, because he hasn't given an example yet of how Genshin has dropped the ball in this aspect.
Whether he is hinted at or flat out shown through different storylines, wearing different disguises, or pursuing different objectives, each appearance gives us a little more insight into who he is. With every showcase, the game increases our understanding of the character, heightening both his intrigue and our interest in him. And I believe it is in the consistency and the importance of a tease that Genshin Impact completely misses the mark when it comes to teasing their characters. Take Varka for example. The first time we ever heard of him was way back in the Mondstadt era, the 1.x era, when we were told that he was the Grand Master of the Knights of Favonius. And that was phenomenal. A compositionally strong and meaningful tease. We were given a name and a significant position he held, and in Mondstadt, that position mattered. But when was the next time we got another significant tease of Varka? Was it in the next version, the next couple of versions, or sometime later that year? No, it was 2 years later, in version 3.5, and even then, it wasn't through anything particularly remarkable. He was teased in a scene where one of the most, if not the single most bland and forgettable 4-star characters in Genshin Impact simply read out a message. And even after that, the game did not learn its lesson, because the next time we got another significant tease about Varka was another 2 years later, this time in the Paralogism quest. And in here, they decided to tease Varka, one of the most obscure and interesting characters in all of Genshin Impact, basically with a butt dial. And this goes to show that every single time Varka was teased in Genshin Impact, the tease was either insignificant or forgettable. And
oh my god, I am about to crash out to sit here and make the claim that every tease or something that showed us a bit of his personality was insignificant is crazy to claim. That's freaking crazy to make such a claim. Oh my lord, hold up. I gotta re-listen to what he said and get my thoughts together so I can push back against this point, because this point is stupid. Hold up. The first time he was mentioned was by Jean back in version 1. Again, Genshin is doing the long game. This is something that this content creator refuses to accept when it comes to the Genshin Impact. Or he just hates the fact that Genshin is playing the long game instead of short term, which Withering Waves is relying on. Withering Waves is relying on short term shit for spectacle with lacking substance. Which is why 2.7 story was not the greatest, which is why it fell off. But for some reason, he believes that it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But again, his character reveal, it was too early for his character reveal. Whether you like it or not, it was too early for it. Tell me, what reason would we need to have to see Varka in Liyue, in Inazuma, in Sumeru, in Fontaine, in Natlan? What sense would it make to meet him in any point in time across the game before Nodcry? Because we were told that he was on an expedition to Nodcry for years, and we're finally in Nodcry, and we're finally seeing him. If you don't like the fact that they played the long game, boo-hoo, I don't care. That's the objective fact. Genshin went the long game because that's what they wanted to do. If you don't like it, it is what it is. Boo-hoo, cry about it. But to sit here and say that every piece of information that we got about Varka, or even getting glimpses of his personality from him butt dialing by accident, or how he was talking and engaging with us in a letter that he gave to Enefa, who then gave the letter to the Traveler because Varka had been caught up about every piece of information about the Traveler and everything they've done after during their time in Mondstadt and after they left Mondstadt. So it's like, how are we going to sit here and say this is our bad thing? Every time there was a moment like this that happened, people were excited about it. To sit here and try to make the argument that nobody was excited about this is crazy.
Another 2 years later, this time in the Paralogism quest. And in here, they decided to tease Varka, one of the most obscure and interesting characters in all of Genshin Impact, basically with a butt dial. And this goes to show that...
Yeah, because it was meant to show the goofy side of Varka's personality, which we see in the Nodcry story. How are we saying this is a bad thing when it's showing us his personality? How? Make it make sense.
That every single time Varka was teased in Genshin Impact, the teaser was either insignificant or forgettable.
Insignificant or forgettable, yet me, a player who's been playing the game for 5 years, who is a semi-casual player, can remember these moments in detail. Sure, it's forgettable. Yeah, it's probably forgettable to niggas who quit the game within a year or 2 years. More than likely, and then came back 2 years later. Yeah, it's forgetful for them because they missed out on this stuff.
And I believe that is the core problem with how Genshin Impact teases these characters, and by extension, how the community perceives them when they are eventually introduced. The game takes an excessively long time to provide these teasers, and after waiting all that time, instead of giving us something amazing, something truly worth conversation, what we end up with are bland, unmemorable teasers. Creating by...
Oh my god. Bland and unmemorable teasers. If that's the case, then people should not have been excited about Columbina appearing in the story, or Sandrone, or just any Harbinger that appeared in the story after the Harbinger teaser that was released before Sumeru dropped. Oh, people shouldn't have been excited about it then. People shouldn't have been excited about Columbina, Sandrone, Arlecchino, or any of the other Harbingers. But they clearly were. And guess what? When they finally pop up in the game, guess what? They're going to be excited about it because the game has done a proper job of hyping it up. So when the time comes for the execution, boom, it's going to sell like hotcakes, which they've checked the boxes off when it came to Alice, Varka, Columbina, Sandrone. Because these characters have been teased both inside and outside the game through various pieces of material, which you have said is a good thing when it came down to the architect. So please tell me, how is it a bad thing for Genshin? Because, oh, they took too long? If they took too long, then people wouldn't have been excited about these characters. But guess what? When the Nodcry character teaser, when the Nodcry teaser dropped about 3 months ago, going on 4 at this point probably, guess what? People were losing their shit over Varka, over Alice. Like, what are we talking about here? Talking about something, they did a poor job. They clearly didn't if people are still excited about it.
By extension, bland and forgettable reveals. Now the second, and I believe slightly more important reason behind the general lack of hype for these characters is in the
general lack of hype for characters that they've built up in and outside the game. Yeah, sure, okay.
Stinginess that Genshin Impact always seems to incorporate into its character acquisition model. See, eventually, Varka, Alice, Nicole, and every other obscure character, all the way to the Shades, will all become playable characters. And that is Nicole. And
Nicole was introduced to us in the limited time events back in Sumeru, or back in Mondstadt during the Sumeru era of version 3. I think it may be version 3.3 or 3.4, where we learned about the Hexenzirkel group. We got an imagery of Nicole in that animated cutscene. Now, I didn't show in detail what she looked like, but we got an idea of what she may look like. The same thing goes for Cloud Retainer and her human form. Guess what? They teased that, 3 years ago, during Lantern Rite, during that animation. And guess what happened? It was a full-blown character model from top to bottom, and then she became playable like a year or two later. And guess what? People were excited about it. They were clapping their hands like, yes, Mommy Cloud Retainer is here. To me, this feels a little out of touch with his claim that he's making. That's what this feels like to me. It feels like someone who left Genshin or barely plays it or barely engages with the community when it comes down to conversation about Genshin, because realistically, the only conversation he really engages in from what I'm seeing on his channel is woo-wah conversation about why woo-wah better. Go check out his community posts. If he says about, oh, which game do you guys like better? Guess what? The overwhelming of his audience is going to click woo-wah. I saw it with his most recent community post, actually. Let me go look at it right now. Let me pull his channel up on my phone to prove my point. The Nigerian perspective. Scroll. Here we go. Let's go to community posts. Here we go. 5 days ago, he was asking, should I make a talk about the new Hoyoverse game that's coming out, or should I make a deep dive video about Rover? Guess what? People overwhelmingly chose a Rover deep dive. Nothing but woo-wah conversation going on all throughout this community post and other games he wants to try to cover. There is no conversation about Genshin in these community posts at all. So that tells me he doesn't engage in any lore, talking about Genshin in relation to these characters at all, in the slightest. Even I made a community post about Varka and Alice. And did I mention Nicole in my community post a couple months ago? Actually, let me go check out my own community post from a couple months ago. I know I'm pulling it up on my phone instead of the reaction, but it helps me do this better without having the damn thing lag on me. Okay, so let's go back in time to... Here we go. 4 months ago, when they revealed Varka, Alice, Columbina, Flynn's. Granted, 3 of those characters were mentioned already in passing and revealed to us the other material in and outside the game. So it's like, this is so crazy how he's making the claim that Genshin failed to do this because they took too long. And it's like, by that logic, people shouldn't be excited by any character in One Piece who was talked about in passing appearing in the story. By that same logic. But guess what? People who watch One Piece, them niggas get excited when these characters appear on screen. True. Even back to the conversation about Madara, right? Let's be honest. How many years did it take for Kishimoto to finally reveal Madara in his entirety being in the story after him being mentioned, being mentioned in passing, or someone mistaking another character for being Madara because they were posing as Madara, and so on. Right? Someone can tell me, how many years did it take from Naruto Part 1 to Shippuden for, guess what, Madara to finally roll up into the story? Probably took a long time, didn't it? It didn't happen in the course of months. Realistically, it probably took years before that happened, because Naruto Part 1 was written first before Naruto Shippuden. If you want to complain about timing, that is an example of taking a long time for that character to finally be brought into the story. Good God Almighty.
Incorporates into his character acquisition model. See, eventually, Varka, Alice, Nicole, and every other obscure character, all the way to the Shades, will all become playable characters. And that is supposed to be exciting, but here's the thing. What Genshin fails to understand about his characters and generating hype towards these characters is that what creates true excitement for obtaining these characters is the want to get them and not the need. And for the better part of a year, the game has positioned almost every new...
You don't think people wanted to pull for Skirk when Child talked about her in passing? You don't think people wanted to pull for Cloud Retainer when they revealed her character model and showing her Adeptus human form. Who's another character I could think of? Who's an obscure character who was talked about in passing? Well, Varka, he's about to be released. Or Columbina, she about to be released. She was talked about in passing by other characters, especially playable characters like Child and Wanderer, who talked about the Harbingers in passing. Both of them have their own personal views of how they view them. So making the claim that Genshin has only expressed people's need for the characters versus the want is not true. There's been so much want for these characters, wanting for them to appear in the story, wanting them to finally take center stage in the main content of the story. To sit and say that, oh, people, it's just like, bro, what?
Hype towards these characters is that what creates true excitement for obtaining these characters is the want to get them and not the need. And for the better part of a year, the game has positioned almost every new character in a way that makes them essential for your overall playthrough to be better and more enjoyable. The excitement isn't about this.
Wait. When did we start talking about gameplay? When did that have a role to play in this? Because you didn't mention that when it came down to the architect, but somehow you're going to mention that when it comes down to Genshin. So now it switched from a concept of, oh, you don't want the characters, you need the characters in the play. Do I need an architect to become playable for me to care and be excited about his character and about his ties to the rover? No, I don't. It doesn't need to happen. But in the same breath, to see and say that players need to pull for characters in order to fulfill their excitement for a character sounds like bullshit. No, people pull them because they want them, not need. The only way you need these characters is if you want to build a certain type of team archetype. That's the only way you need them. Outside of that, you're pulling because of wants, not needs. And the same thing goes for Wuwa, same thing goes with Star Rail, same thing goes with Zenless.
And not the need. And for the better part of a year, the game has positioned almost every new character in a way that makes them essential for your overall playthrough to be better and more enjoyable.
Essential for your overall playthrough to be better when your main content that you're doing your playthrough of is the story. I would love to know, when did I need it to pull Flynn's in order to enjoy Nodcry's story, or Nefer, or Anefa when it came out to version 5.8. I would love to know, when the hell did I need to pull for them in order to get through the main story content? Someone tell me when, because that didn't happen.
Almost every new character in a way that makes them essential for your overall playthrough to be better and more enjoyable. The excitement isn't about desire or hype, it is about necessity. And all of this really starts all the way.
It is such a fucking lie. And the fact that he's pushing it as such, more than likely, there's no one in the comment section pushing back against it, which I'm not even going to bother looking, because more than likely that's the case. But to sit here and say that is a necessity that you pull for these characters in order to enjoy your playthrough of the story is crazy. But if he's saying that when it comes down to the in-game content, when it comes down to the reveal of these characters appearing in the story, no one's about to sit here and pull for the character just to engage in in-game content, because that's a separate conversation. That has nothing to do with characters appearing in the story and their character being built up thanks to lore and being talked about in passing. That has nothing to do with in-game content in the slightest, even if he wants to lean it towards that conversation. This is about story content, main story content. From what I'm getting, the only complaint here is that Genshin took a longer time to reveal these characters. But he's not expressed, and then he downplays the moments where the characters were talked about in passing, or we heard them speak, heard their voices in the main story or in limited time event content that were later end up being the stuff that built up their character before they're revealed in the story. And saying like, oh, it was bad. You said it was bad just cause and then you said it was insignificant just cause. You didn't actually go in depth to why it was bad. You didn't say, oh, it was bad because it gave us a different perspective of his character that was not talked about prior to this. Or it was bad because we didn't get enough of it, or we didn't spend enough time with it, or the traveler didn't interact enough with this information to then be like, okay, preparing themselves for when they eventually meet Varka. But they already knew about Varka in passing. I'm pretty sure there's even voice lines in the game before Varka's release that Paimon and Traveler are talking about Varka. Pretty sure. I could be wrong about that. Someone let me know. But this whole point that he's making is just bullshit. I'm going to be honest with you. I may sound very aggressive with my pushback, but I'm just being honest with you. This sounds like bullshit right now. To say that people need to pull these characters in order to enjoy their playthrough of the main story content is a dumb take. If that's the case, then guess what? Withering Waves is the same way. I need to pull for KallaTheYapper to enjoy 2.3 story. I need to pull for Falova to enjoy fully version 2.5 story. I need to pull for Lupa to enjoy 2.4 story. I need to pull for Augusta to enjoy 2.6 first half of its story and second half for Yuno. I need to pull for Galbrena in version 2.7 to enjoy 2.7 story. Do you see how dumb that sounds?
All the way back in Natlan, where enjoyment of environmental exploration was locked behind characters. Sure, you could...
No, it wasn't. You had free options, which were the Saurians, which, mind you, I used the Saurians entirely, and I skipped the majority of Natlan's characters. So no, my enjoyment was not locked behind, oh, I needed to pull that character. My enjoyment was, I used them damn Saurians.
Back in Natlan.
I made a whole video talking about this. Go check my video out. It's in the Yapping Topics playlist. It is my most viewed video on my entire channel with 7K views. Go check it out for yourself.
Where enjoyment of environmental exploration was locked behind characters. Sure, you could swim in the water or transform into a Saurian for a slightly better experience. But if you want the best...
Slightly better experience, yet the damn Saurians moved in the exact same fashion as the playable characters. Oh, Kanich had a grapple that worked about, what, 1, 2, 3 times? Guess what? The Saurian was the same way. Oh, Kachina can climb up the wall? Oh, guess what? The Saurian was the same way. And they had their own unique thing, too, where they can hop out of the ground and drill back into the ground. What about the Saurians that can surf through water, like Mulanni? Guess what? They move in the exact same fluid fashion as Mulanni. I would argue that the Saurian that's for water moves in a more fluid fashion compared. I think I like that version more than Mulanni's surfboard, personally. Oh my lord.
Best water traversal experience. You had to pull for Mulanni.
No, you
the
didn't.
character that lets you literally surf on the water.
Yeah, who had a stamina bar for the same shit that the Saurians did, aka 1-to-1. The difference is you turned into an animal and you were surfing through the water full sprint. So no, you didn't need to pull for Mulanni to have a better experience. It was the same exact experience.
Similarly, yes, you could climb mountains manually, but if you wanted to literally run on a mountain, you had to pull for Shilonen. Every single 5-star in the Natlan region was necessary and beneficial. Forgetting the...
It was not necessary. It was optional. Was it beneficial? Yeah, sure.
You had to pull for Shilonen. Every single...
Also, this region that he's showing that he's climbing a rock on, this is Leeway. Leeway and Mondstadt, two early regions of the game, because they came out first, before Inazuma, Sumeru, Fontaine, Shinyu Vale, and so on came out. There was no exploration mechanics built into the regions at the time that allow for smoother traversal, like going up walls. And also, first of all, why the fuck would you over here climb up this tall ass wall and not go around it or find a better route to go? Instead, you would actively choose a wall that you have to climb directly up. Come on now, you use your brain cells. Different ways to slice, skin this cat. And back to my conversation about exploration mechanics. Guess what? Ever since Inazuma all the way till now, they've introduced exploration mechanics that made it easier to traverse, meaning you did not need to pull for a character because it was optional to pull for the character if you needed traversal. Why the hell do you think they introduced exploration mechanics in the game, like the Wave Rider, or the Electrogranum, or Dendrogranum, or even the underwater exploration, which every character can do? How about in Nodcry, guess what? They got the whole little Sealy things that you can grapple to or turn into and do exploration like that. If it was so predatory that you need to spend money for it, they wouldn't have introduced a free mechanic to use for free. Because I keep asking people that. Okay, if it is as predatory as you're claiming, why the hell did they introduce this for? Because they should have just introduced a playable character with the exploration mechanic instead of putting an exploration mechanic that is free to use in the game. They shouldn't have put it in the game then. If they wanted to just sell this to us, then there's no point of the free exploration mechanic being there in the game at all. If this is meant the thing they're supposed to sell to us. But they clearly created a free option so that people wouldn't have to feel the need to solely pull for this. Clearly.
single 5-star in the Natlan region was necessary and beneficial for getting the absolute best experience the game had to offer. And this insane practice continued all the way to Nordcry, where
That's such a fucking lie.
this time, it's not about environmental advantages, but combat advantages. Yes, you got the robot girl in Natlan, but if you want her to do maximum damage, you need to pull for the emo grave boy in Nordcry. And if you
So now we're bitching about niche team building. I wonder where your energy at for Zanny, Phoebe, Karthethia, Shakona, and Galbrana and Wandering Swordsman. Please tell me you keep that same energy for them. If I find out you don't, to me, you're being fake right now. I'ma be fucking for real. Don't get me started on Chisa, because apparently Chisa also helps with negative status effects, meaning she's built for negative status effect niche teams that are more premium teams versus what Genshin got going on. Because Genshin is a 4-man team, Wuwa is a 3-man team. Flynn's and Anefa being on the same team, 2 premium units, and then what? The other 2 will be 4-star characters. Same thing for the rest of them. Skirk's team is questionable because there's 3 premium units on that team. Technically. Well, technically all 4 because we don't have a standard. So that's like the outlier in that conversation. Anyway, let's get back into it. Let's finish this.
Natlan. But if you want her to do maximum damage, you need to pull for the emo grave boy in Nordcry. And if you want to beat the newer endgame content, the new Spiral Abyss, the new staging onslaught, and every other challenge, you literally cannot succeed against most bosses unless you pull for Nordcry characters. And this continues.
Well, that can't be true because I'm seeing people beat it with 4-star characters. So, and characters who aren't even just 4 stars, but characters from last month, the month before that, so on and so forth. Because there's a lot of characters in this game that can deal a lot of damage. I know that Nordcry enemies, right? They have this thing where if you kill them, you have to keep attacking them to build up that gray bar on them. To then, when they revive themselves, that health bar will be shorter so you can eviscerate them faster. I know that to be the case because, you know, running around Nordcry, I fought them a whole bunch of times. So I understand how the mechanic works. But to sit here and act like we don't have a lot of DPSs and niche teams that's not lunar charge or lunar reaction based niche teams that can get the job done is crazy.
Continues even up to the present, where this time the only way for it to.
Now the onslaught is meant to be a game mode for whales. Let's keep that clear. And also the buffs for the Spiral Abyss change periodically, and not every buff is for the new DPS coming out. Cause they make general buffs as well. Or they create conditions where it's like, oh, if you do this electro charge reaction, it's going to create this shockwave that deals damage. So that means if you're doing lunar charge reaction, or you're just doing electro charge reaction, you're going to get extra damage from doing that. The Imaginum Theater, it is a literal, you need to have a large amount of characters to play that. Not just one specific, you need a large amount. Meaning it's meant for players who've been playing the game for at least a year or 2. If you want to engage in that game mode. Or because they also let you borrow trial characters so that you don't have to pull for any characters, and you can borrow your characters from your friends as well. So there's less need to spend money for a character when you can borrow it from someone else, or be handed to one for free for free use.
Way to get your older characters buffed is to pull for the newest units. So let me ask you a very important question.
That's a lie, as stated before. He's stating a lie right now. If you want to buff your older characters, you need to pull for the new unit. That's not true, as stated with the Genshin Impact live stream, which, should I pull it up right now? I don't think I need to, because I done beat that dead horse multiple times. Go check out my Glaive Kill reaction where I called him out for his misinformation, rightfully so, because he was lying, where I put up the live stream. I'm going to link it in the description of this reaction so you can see what the hell I'm talking about. I'll even timestamp it if I need to.
As I mentioned before, all of the obscure characters, whether it's the one being revealed now or the ones that will be revealed later, every single one will one day be playable. But would you want a situation where acquiring these characters come from a place of wants? From the genuine excitement of saving up your primo gems, worrying about a 50-50, or feeling the thrill and relief of knowing your...
Yeah, worrying about a 50-50 like Wuthering Waves doesn't have a 50-50 for their own damn character banner? Why are we acting like this is Genshin exclusive? This is shit I hate when I watch videos like this where people try to make this, oh, it's a Hoyo versus exclusive issue. No, it's not. 50-50 also exists in Wuwa. Come on now. Let's be fucking for real right now. I hate the dishonesty when it comes down to people engaging in this conversation. I swear to God I do. Excuse my crash out right now, but that's just how I feel right now.
genuine excitement of saving up your Primogem.
Let's read what's on the screen right now, because he said you got to pull for the new shiny 5-star if you want to get XYZ. Then tell me, why the fuck are they showing Klee, Albedo, Fischl, and Razor on the screen right now? These two are old limited 5-stars from the first year of the game, with 2 old 4-stars from the first year of the game as well. Where's the new guy at exactly? Because it seems like this team setup doesn't show the new character. I'm wondering where the hell they at. Let's even read this, shall we? While Oz is on the field, when party members trigger Overlord reactions, both Fischl and the current active character will have their attack increased. When party members trigger Electro Charge or Lunar Charge reactions, both Fischl and the current character will have their Elemental Mastery increased. These are good things. And guess what? They activate based on if there's another person on the team with a Hexarise, who has a Hexarise buff, aka Fischl, Razor. This is an Overload team. Fischl and fucking Klee, Overload reaction, which will, guess what, increase the attack. Electro Charge and Lunar Charge, guess what? You can pit Fischl with Mona, 2 characters who have direct ties with each other in the main game. On the same team, you're going to get that increase in Elemental Mastery, which more than likely there's a DPS or another character who wants that, which that means, oh, let's add a Dendro character to that team who is a Dendro DPS who wants to have more Elemental Mastery so they can do more damage. Guess what? That's a recipe for success.
Gems, worrying about a 50-50 or feeling the thrill and relief of knowing your next pull is guaranteed, but really ultimately understanding that whether you get the character or not, your enjoyment of Genshin Impact doesn't shift. You can still play the game and you can still look forward to the rerun of these characters. Or do you want it based on need, where you understand that you will never get the best Genshin Impact experience unless you have that character, where defeat
both exist at the same time, but to sit here and argue that the need exists more than the want is a fucking lie.
to the next.
And this is coming from someone who is a semi-casual player of this damn game. So when I'm sitting here having this rant that I got going on for over the last hour or whatever, do know it's coming from someone who's been playing the game since A1, day one, and has never experienced this, oh, I need to pull for this character. I have folded to want multiple times. I'll tell you one right now. When Risley and Neuvillette were on the banner, I told myself I'm pulling for Risley because he is the first cryo catalyst that has been released in the game. Or he's the second one, right? And I was like, I need that because I want a cryo catalyst on my account. I want my cryo punchy boy. But guess what? I folded to the hype, to the want that is Neuvillette, and pulled for him. I also wanted to pull for Farina as well, and I got her as well. So the want clearly succeeded past the need. Shoot, damn near every character that I pulled for in these Hoyoverse games has always been a want. I don't think I've ever pulled for a character that was a need, ever. Like, I pulled for Dia and Shinha. Both of those were wants, not needs. In Star Rail, I pulled for freaking Sunday. That was a want, not a need. Actually, that was a want / need because I knew that he was probably going to be meta defining in version 3.0 when 3.0 dropped. So that's why I pulled for him. I pulled for Finon. I didn't pull him because I needed him. I pulled him because I wanted him because he was a cool character who had a good build up from his first introduction to now in the story at that point in time. Sidra. I pulled for Sidra because I wanted my short, cute queen. That's what I wanted. Cyrene. Pulled for Cyrene because I wanted Cyrene, not because I needed her. And so forth. So I pulled for Firefly because I wanted Firefly, not because I needed Firefly. So it's like this whole idea of the want is decreased in comparison to the need when it comes down to Genshin is just not true. Again, coming from a semi-casual player, aka me, myself, and I. So it's like, I don't believe that this is true. I believe this is a lie being pushed right now. Or a subjective opinion being pushed as fact.
next endgame boss is practically impossible, and where that older unit you really wanted can never be buffed unless you pull for this new character. And this question is very important because right now, the character acquisition system in Genshin Impact is strictly need-based. Every 5-star and every future 5-star, including the obscure ones, is required to get the best overall Genshin Impact experience. And really, this boils down to the fact that when we step away from the story and focus on mechanics, every single tease we've had for a character, no matter how long it has been teased, becomes completely irrelevant. Because ultimately, the acquisition of the character works the same way as any other character.
Because they shift meta. Duh. That happens in all games. That even happened in Wuwa too. If Wuwa pits arrow erosion stacks in they fucking in-game, guess what? It shifted meta. If it wants you to have a full-blown fusion-based team, guess what? It shifted meta. If they want, the swap mechanic counterattack shit as its buff, or actually, which they actually did when it came down to Augusta, right? They released Augusta's buff thing before her character even came out in the in-game content for, I think, Whimpering Waste, or it was Tower of Adversity, and people talked about that. And they're like, why did they release this before the character came out? And guess what? The character wants to be on the same team as you know. Again, this thing that he's trying to make as a Genshin exclusive thing also exists in Wuwa. And I find it surprising that he's not even willing to recognize that or even mention that in his video. Because, yeah, Genshin Impact the devil, Wuwa God's gift to the world, right?
Character in the game. It's not based on wants. We're not given a choice of whether or not we truly want these characters. No, if you want to get the best experience, you need these characters. See, as I said at the start of this video, everything wrong with Genshin Impact today, whether it's the lack of hype for the reveal of these highly obscure characters, or the general underwhelm
lack of hype, again, that's a lie.
Surrounding the game, it is all self-inflicted. What we're seeing in Genshin Impact right now is the result of 5 years of complacency, 5 years of stinginess, and 5 years of creating a game and an environment designed to take as much from the audience as possible.
Bro, your example that you gave for why Genshin dropped the ball when it came down to teasing a character and building them up before their reveal was it took too long. That was it. You didn't even go in depth to why it was bad. Other than it took too long. Give me a fucking break here. If this is what we're deeming as valid criticism, then we need to burn it all and throw it in the trash and start from scratch. Because this ain't it. This was a bad video. This was bad. Excuse my crash out. But this was just, oh my lord. Good lord. No, there's a saying where everyone's opinion is not worth having. Oh my lord, I don't even know what the saying is exactly, but this is one of those moments. Good lord in heaven, I'm done. I ain't got nothing else to say. I'm burnt out just listening to what the fuck this happened in this fucking video. Genu-fucking-ly. Yo, like, sub, turn on notification bell, join my YouTube community Discord if you wish. Link is on my channel. Check out my yapping topics and check out my yapping reaction videos. The playlists are also on my channel. Go check out my live streams if you wish. The playlists are also on my channel. I'll leave a link to his video in the description below, and hopefully a link to both the live stream and timestamp it and my own video, or rather just my video with the timestamp, when they talked about these character buffs and how you did not need to pull for Durin to activate them. Because apparently that was missed in translation, surprisingly. And this video came out 16 hours ago, meaning there was more than enough time for him to go rewatch that damn live stream to further get the accurate information out. But of course, spreading misinformation. Nothing new here. Anyway, this is KallaTheYapper signing out. And good lord, I need to take probably a 3-hour break before I do another reaction video. Because this was, oh my good lord in heaven. Oh boy, your boy crashing out. I'll see y'all later. Peace.